Hello, good morning. Welcome to Core Finance. I'm Matt Brown. I'm joined by Ricardo Evangelista, Senior Executive Officer at ActivTrades. And thank you very much for coming on today. We're going to start off with the dollar. As we move into the year end, we feel kind of the dollar seems a bit more positive, albeit Treasury yields have given back a little bit over recent sessions. What's your take on where the dollar can go into the year end?
Morning, Matt. The dollar has been doing really well. So if we look, for example, at the dollar index, which is a comparison between the dollar and the basket of 6 other major currencies, we can see that the progress has been steady and quite positive for the dollar. And this has been on the back of the interest rates rise that we've had already, and also the expectation for a third before the year is finished. This is widely seen as almost something done, a done deal, as you say. At the moment, the dollar, which has been, riding on the back of this positive spirit, yesterday stumbled somehow on an obstacle, which is the Senate's rumours. The rumours that the Senate will postpone the tax reform,
Yes.
Which is something that would have been a very positive push on the back of the dollar, another positive wind on the dollar sales, and this now looks like it'll be postponed for a year. So this corporate tax reforms, which would decrease the amount of tax paid by corporations, looks like it's going to be put on hold, which is not good news, and we've seen this morning a reflex of that already, with the dollar stumbling somehow. It's understandable why there's some, a lack of political will to carry out this change at the moment, because we've just seen a couple of days ago, or almost a week ago, with the release of Paradise Papers. Once again the eye of the public eye and the attention of everybody is on taxation, and also on wider issues like this redistribution of wealth and inequality. So politically, it will be a tough measure to accomplish at the moment, and that has had some repercussions on the dollar short term. Otherwise, yes, I mean it's been all good.
And when we look at the dollar, let's say versus the Canadian dollar, that's an interesting currency pair, and it does feel the Canadian dollar at the moment is being driven by macro announcements, and actually we're seeing some bigger moves. So certainly for the Canadian dollar, when you look at, say, euro dollar, and you see a macro announcement and it moves kind of a few basis points, a few bips, but certainly for the Canadian, it's been more volatile and actually probably drawing a lot of interest now from traders as a currency pair.
Yes. A number of reasons for that. On one hand, we see the rise in oil prices and commodities in general. So there's quite a positive spirit around those instruments, and that is a reflection on the Canadian dollar, with Canada being an exporter of such products. But also we've had some very positive news that came out yesterday on the housing sector, which showed well above average new house starts, and demonstrated unexpected vitality in the sector in Canada. So this has given the Canadian dollar a boost, and especially against the US dollar, we saw some interesting movement there. Yes.
And it's almost as if the Canadian dollar is trading like an emerging market currency. It's quite volatile, quite active, and that's good for traders. But speaking of established emerging markets, how are they performing at the moment?
They are suffering. They are suffering because the dollar is benefiting from the interest rates rise, and the positive spirit and interest from investors, and many of these emerging economies, they are quite indebted. They have quite sizable sovereign debt, which is denominated in US dollars, and also corporate debt, which is denominated in US dollars. So that being the case, with the strong dollar, is not good news for these economies. So we've seen recently that, for example, the Turkish lira is not doing so well, and also something quite interesting that I read recently is that the Turkish government is now one of or the Turkish central bank rather, is now one of the main buyers of gold. So it's now buying 10 tons of gold a month or something like that, which is quite interesting. It helps us to put things into perspective. But also we see that the Brazilian real is not doing so well. I mean, I won't even mention Venezuela because that looks like it'll be a default,
yes,
completely, unfortunately. So emerging economies and their currencies are, on one hand, benefiting from the positive spirit surrounding commodities, but on the other hand, suffering, and possibly more on the if we put both on the place of the scales, suffering more from a strong dollar.
Understood. Lots to talk about there. In the meantime, Ricardo, thank you very much for joining us today here on Core Finance from ActivTrades. Always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Matt.